My Weird School. Fast Facts. Dinosaurs, Dodos, and Woolly Mammoths. Written by Dan Gutman. Pictures by Jim Pillot. Chapter 4. Putting Dinosaurs Together. Before 1858, hardly anybody had even heard of dinosaurs. They weren't put on display in museums. But that summer, a fossil hunter named William Parker Folk was on vacation in Haddonfield, New Jersey, when he heard about a nearby farmer who found some big bones out in his field. Folk got permission to dig in the area, and 10 feet below the surface, he and his team uncovered more big bones. Lots of big bones. And it turned out that they seemed to fit together. It was an almost complete dinosaur skeleton. The skeleton was put on display at the Academy of Sciences in Philadelphia, and it was a sensation. People came from all over to see it. The museum had to move to a larger building because of the crowds. The dinosaur was named Hadrosaurus folki, in honor of William Parker Folk. It came to be named New Jersey's state dinosaur. And today, in the center of Haddonfield, there's a full-size statue of Hadrosaurus folki. The locals call it Hattie. Ever since William Parker Folk's discovery, the public has been fascinated by dinosaurs. Scientists began searching for them all over the United States and tried to learn all about them. What they have already learned has changed how we think about the history of our planet. So the moral of the story is, the next time you're on a vacation, keep an eye out for weird stuff you may find lying around outside. You never know what you might dig up. How is a dinosaur skeleton put together? When you see a dinosaur skeleton in a museum, it's all cleaned up, set up, and posed, so it almost looks like it's alive. But it didn't start out that way. It started out as a bunch of filthy bones that somebody found out in the wild. This is what paleontologists go through before anybody can see that skeleton in a museum. First, they have to dig the bones out of the ground. After power tools and shovels cleared away the bulk of the dirt, paleontologists use hand tools, dental picks, needles, and brushes to remove the rock and dirt from around the bones. This takes a long time, and they need to be very careful not to break anything. Remember, those bones are millions of years old. Before they can be taken out of the ground, the bones must be washed and examined to see if they need to be repaired. Some of them will be weak or cracked. Glue, fiberglass, or steel bands are used to fix broken bones. Most of the time, the skeleton isn't complete. Some of the bones will be missing, so they have to be replaced. But how do paleontologists know what the missing bones look like? They find out by looking at other dinosaurs of the same species, or they'll look at other animals that exist today to see how their bones fit together. Sometimes, two partial skeletons of the same species get combined to make one complete skeleton. If that's not possible, the missing bones will be made out of wood, epoxy, or ceramic. Next, the bones get mounted so people can imagine what the dinosaur looked like when it was alive. Because dinosaur bones are so old and brittle, they would break if stress was put on them. So a steel structure called an armature is made, and the bones are attached to it with pins, bolts, or straps. Sometimes, cables are hung from the ceiling to hold the skeleton up. Finally, the museum will display information about the dinosaur. Barriers will be placed around it to prevent people from touching it. And then the dinosaur skeleton, which had been hidden for millions of years, is ready to be viewed by the public. Of course, before any of that stuff happens, the museum has to carefully measure the space where the dinosaur is going to be displayed. You can imagine how embarrassing it would be if they went through all that preparation and then the dinosaur was too big to fit in the room. Awkward. Actually, sometimes a dinosaur skeleton gets repositioned after it's put on display. That's because paleontologists are always getting new information about the way dinosaurs lived. For example, sauropods were always posed with their 40-foot neck in an S shape, so they could reach into trees to eat leaves. But in 1999, scientists using a computer model figured out that sauropods would not have been able to lift their heavy necks like that. Their backbones, the vertebrae, were too heavy. They probably kept their necks straight out and ate lower-lying plants and shrubs. Many museums rearranged their sauropod skeletons because of this new information. How do we know what dinosaurs looked like? If you looked at a human skeleton, would you be able to tell what that person looked like? Of course not. Other than their height, you'd know next to nothing about them. It's the same with dinosaurs. We know what their skeletons look like, but what color was their skin? Did they even have skin? Maybe they had fur or feathers. You can't tell just by looking at bones. A century ago, an artist named Charles R. Knight was famous for his paintings of dinosaurs. Knight combined the scientific knowledge of his day with his own imagination to create the first realistic images of prehistoric creatures, and he was legally blind. Knight's paintings were printed in books and hung in museums all over the world. Thanks to him and to movies like Jurassic Park, dinosaurs have been brought to life. But how close are the dinosaurs in our imaginations to what they were really like? Thanks to the work of brilliant scientists and computer modeling, recently we've learned more about dinosaurs than we thought we would ever know. Before the 1970s, it was hard to tell if a small skeleton was a baby dinosaur or a small adult one. But then a paleontologist named Jack Horner found thousands of fossilized eggs and embryos at a location now called Egg Mountain in Montana. That made it possible to see how dinosaurs hatched, were born, and grew up. It also became easier to figure out the age of a dinosaur skeleton when we could see what it looked like as a baby. In 2006, farmers in China uncovered some fossils from a dinosaur that seemed to have feathers from head to tail. With that discovery and others since, scientists have determined that some dinosaurs were more bird-like than they previously thought. The evidence suggests that modern birds may even be descendants of dinosaurs. Other dinosaurs, we've learned, had scales instead of feathers. We know this because of the scaly skin impressions that were found in the fossils of herbivores, like Edmontosaurus and Saurophus. Other herbivores, like Scelidosaurus, were covered in bony plates, called osteoderms. Some had spikes and knobs. Duck-billed hadrosaurs had grinding teeth at the back of their jaws, so they probably had big cheeks, which allowed them to hold more food in their mouths for chewing before swallowing. What color were the dinosaurs? We'll never really know, but recently researchers have analyzed pigment found in fossils. Sinosauropteryx, a small meat-eating dinosaur, had reddish-brown stripes on its tail. The ichthyosaur, which was a dolphin-like marine reptile, had a very dark skin color. I'll tell you one thing, I wouldn't want to be a dinosaur dentist. There were no dinosaur dentists, Arlo. I know that, but if there were dinosaur dentists, I wouldn't want to be one. Did you know that T-Rex had 50 or 60 thick, sharp teeth? And if the dentist heard it, the T-Rex might bite its head off. That's nothing. The dinosaurs with the most teeth were the hadrosaurs. They had as many as 960 teeth. But it wouldn't be very hard to be a dentist for dinosaurs like Gallimimus and Ornithomimus. They didn't have any teeth at all. Dinosaurs also had replaceable teeth. If a tooth fell out, another one would take its place. I wonder if dinosaurs ever wore braces. Here's a question that's probably on everybody's lips. Did dinosaurs have lips? Pictures in movies show meat-eating theropods, such as a T-Rex, with its teeth bared. They're pretty scary. But Robert Rice, a paleontologist at the University of Toronto, has challenged that idea. He looked at crocodiles, which are the closest living relatives of theropod dinosaurs, and decided that theropod teeth were probably covered by scaly lips. These days, scientists use fossils, computer modeling, and comparisons with living creatures to get a better picture of what dinosaurs looked like. Whether or not they had lips is something we don't know for sure. I will say this, my lips are sealed. But not with glue or anything. That would be weird.